Hi everybody, it's me, The Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, The Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Sasha Lessin, and today we have a very special show featuring Alfred Lambremont Webre, our dear friend. And Alfred Webre is a futurist and author of Exopolitics, Politics, Government, and the Law in the Universe. And it's a book that founded the field of exopolitics, the science of relations among intelligent civilizations in the multiverse. Exopolitics includes a case study of human contact with an advanced civilization on Mars. And his 2000 book, Exopolitics, A Decade of Contact, founded the science of relations among intelligent civilizations in the multiverse. Yes, indeed, that episode of our advanced quantum access technology, DARPA, CIA, time travel, this 2000 book, Exopolitics, Politics, Government, Law, and the Universe. After 1971, and in a related outbreak examined by CIA market
Sorry about that, folks. We're going to reconnect with Janet and Dr. Sasha Lessin at this exact moment. I hope everyone enjoys the show today. We got Alfred Lambremont Webre lined up to come on the show. Should be a great line. Sorry for the phone ring. Hi, Alfred. I'm reconnecting with them right now.
Oh, hi.
Skype was having some trouble. How are you doing this evening?
Oh,
It's Janet.
Okay. You guys are back live.
Okay, are we live on Skype or on this phone?
Both, and on Revolution Radio as well.
Okay, can you hear me on the Skype?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear me through this phone, right?
Correct.
Okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Let me put this on speaker because we're both going to be...
Everyone copy that phone.
Oh, okay. So he's going to go in the other room. Just give him a moment. Dr. Lessin's traveling to the living room. So let's see. Where was I? We're just reading Alfred's bio while he gets ready. And Alfred has a new book, The Dimensional Ecology of the Omniverse, which integrates empirical data from intelligent extraterrestrial civilizations and the intelligent civilizations of souls in the interlife. Demonstrates a new hypothesis of a functioning ecology of intelligence in the dimensions in the omniverse. Okay, and Alfred is a graduate of Yale University and Yale Law School in international law and was a Fulbright Scholar in international economic integration in Uruguay. He taught economics at Yale and constitutional law at the University of Texas. Anyway, on and on and on. Alfred is an amazing person. We just love him. Sash, Dr. Lessin, are you there? Do you want to say some things?
Yeah. What you're going to find out today is how the U.S. Constitution was hijacked, and the rights of the people of this country were given to a corporation. And we're going to see how leading the Vatican and its coterie of pedophiles, who Alfred identifies, including the Clintons and the Bushes. And this is very, very serious, and he offers a way out, which is to have a platform of disclosure and honesty that any candidate that is big enough to embrace can embrace. It's a beautiful concept, and I really look forward to this presentation.
So welcome to our show, Alfred.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
We're glad to have you with us again today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, where would you like to begin? We can kind of just open this up and let you explain some things to our listeners, and then Les and I would chime in with some questions now and again.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us how our Constitution got hijacked. Your history is so good. It really takes people through it step by step.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. First of all, I really want to make clear something, and that is that what I stated, and I want to be very, very careful about this, because I have looked at all of the portents, and I've looked at my capabilities, and I've looked at the density of what the United States corporation is, and the military-industrial complex, and all of that. And what I stated was a number of things. Number one, that it is vital that a positive, what we call white hat, in other words, non-shadow government, U.S. president, someone who's not committed or doesn't have to answer to the shadow government, be elected in 2016. And that candidate openly commit themselves to restoring the original constitutional order in the United States, number one. And number two, that it stop the pedophile child sacrifice activities in any part of the U.S. government, black budget or otherwise. And the reason why I noted that is that the two leading families, political dynasties, if you want to call them that, the Clintons and the Bushes, that are now leading for the 2016 election, are actually members of a single crime family. That crime family is centered around pedophiles, centered around pedophile networks, centered around child sacrifice activities, centered around drinking human blood, which is what the Clintons are known for and have been seen doing, and that they are candidates of a matrix of the Vatican, the UK Crown, the City of London, and the U.S. corporation that has seized control of the United States people. And that now they have themselves where both of these parties are moving forward. Both of these families have a claim, or are the leading families, for the Republican Democrat tickets, which the mainstream media are just, they promote that. The Republican and Democrat parties have a monopoly on the political marketplace because of barriers to entry to the political marketplace, especially around the U.S. president. And all of this is based on documentation and research that we've done at our news agency, newsinsideout.com. And what we saw is that there is now a false flag operation, which is an intentional collapse, an intentional financial collapse of the U.S. dollar under the guise of macroeconomics, where its real purpose is depopulation. It's part of the depopulation program. Excuse me.
So this is. Let me just slow this down a little bit because I have a couple of questions. We go back to we were talking about the depopulation program. So you're saying that you have documentation on your newsinsideout.com website, which can prove that the Clintons and the Bushes and the other ones are part of this pedophile ring and satanic rituals and blood sacrifice, etc. Is that on this website here?
Yeah. There's a study that we've done, and it's part of an article. People can go to our website and see a news article that's entitled "The 2016 U.S. President Must Restore the Original 1789 Constitution and Protect the Rights of Children Against Pedophiles." A white hat in the White House. A white hat.
Alfred, what motivates these people to do these horrendous things?
I'm sorry?
What motivates the Clintons and the Bushes to do such horrible things?
Well, these are global networks. And in our investigation, what we did is that if you go to that article that I just mentioned, you will find listed there another article that's entitled "Investigators, CIA, Pope John Paul II, Bush Sr. and Jr., Bill Hillary Clinton do ritual child sacrifice. The transhumanist agenda is the core driver of the global pedophile, child sacrifice, and child trafficking networks." And if you go in there, there's 5 very lengthy exhibits. And the article sets out an overview of the evidence of interconnected MKUltra, pedophile ritual child sacrifice, human hunting parties and abuse networks, and child trafficking networks that are interlinked with the Vatican, the DEA, that's the Drug Enforcement Agency, CIA, Wackenhut, and the Bilderbergers in parliaments, churches, governments, courts, schools, child welfare institutions, and the media. The reality about pedophile and ritual sacrifice networks is remarkable, and it suggests that a prime mover of global pedophile child sacrifice and child trafficking networks may have originated as a cooperative enterprise between Draco reptilians and U.S. government CIA that has the U.S. government MKUltra as an entity and major technological driver. MK Ultra and the Draco connection began during the Franklin Roosevelt administration in 1933 and was further cemented through post-World War II Operation Paperclip of German intelligence and its Draco Orion Gray networks into the CIA, such that the overall enterprise driving the global pedophile, child sacrifice, and child trafficking networks can be termed the driving force behind the transhumanist agenda or the New World Order. The U.S. government, in other words, USA Corp, appears to be an important technological and infrastructure base of the global pedophile, child sacrifice, and child trafficking networks as they integrate with a transhumanist agenda. This explains why U.S. agencies such as the National Security Agency are at the forefront of the effort to torture and robotize humans and are intimately involved in, for example, the interface between remote neural mind control weapons and hospitals that can implant victim mothers and family law and psychiatric facilities that can plot to take the victim's children for the pedophile networks.
Wow.
Yeah. And our research shows that this Draco U.S. government MK Ultra ritual child sacrifice pedophile complex in turn has infiltrated ruling and controller structures worldwide, including churches such as the Vatican, the Anglican Church, the monarchies, the governments, especially the USA corporation government, intelligence agencies, the military corporations, schools, civic organizations, and multi-generational families. So that when the Dracos made their agreement with the U.S. government in underground bases, for example, in Area 51, the U.S. government human officials would co-participate with the Dracos in human sacrifices and eat human flesh and drink the human blood along with those ritual sacrifices. And that is what has amped up the global child sacrifice and pedophile and ritual sacrifice networks, now amped up through MK Ultra, and then that becomes the sort of the political base for the transhumanist agenda, because once you have all of the controlling individuals in all these governments and monarchies and churches engaging in pedophilia and ritual child sacrifice, that breaks them down as entities, and it makes them more susceptible to the transhumanist agenda with their remote neural technology to robotize humans, so such that this network, which is a Draco technology, then becomes the political base for the transhumanist agenda, which then it's much more easy for a transhumanist agenda technology, which is led by the NSA with their HARP targeting and their chemtrails implants tied up to supergrids of supercomputers connected to HARP, then to robotize humans, because their souls have been weakened through all of this pedophilia and all of these ritual child sacrifices. So that's how that So that's how that network works. Now, so what we have in 2016 are a single crime family with two of its heads, the Clintons and the Bushes, that are ritual child sacrifice, pedophilic families that are now leading families there that the mainstream media is saying, well, it's got to be one or the other, better the devil that you know, the devil you don't know. And if either of those two is elected, it's a death knell for the United States people and the United States government. So that's why we came up with the motto, a white hat in the White House. White hat means, a black hat means a person who's answerable to or works for the shadow government. A white hat is a person who is not answerable to the shadow government and works for the sovereignty of the people or the constitutional order. And so it's clear that we need a white hat in the White House. And so these issues are not even dealt with by the mainstream media. They exist to cover up and to totally make it appear as though, a Jeb Bush and a Hillary Clinton are normal people, whereas they are monsters. And
so are Jeb and Hillary and the Bushes and Clintons and all the rest, are they human? Are they Draco? Can you kind of explain to our listeners who are these beings? And this is
what's a Draco? Yeah,
a global problem, not just the United States problem, because aren't they control the whole planet?
Well, what I'm saying is that as individuals, these people, Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, have very specific histories. And they're both of them come from families which are child sacrificers and which are pedophiliacs with the Bushes, starting in the Bush. First it was in the Reagan, then the Bush senior, Bush, H.W. Bush, and then in the Clinton, and then in the Bush White Houses, you had pedophile parties in the White House. You may have had ritual child sacrifice parties in the White House, so that if these parties come back in, then the White House once again is going to become the center of ritual child sacrifice and pedophilia and that dark energy. You have to know that both of these parties, the Bushes and the Clintons, are deep assassins. For example, in an example of what they call foreshadowing, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Hillary Clinton, all three of them, were present at the departure airport when John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane took off, when he was assassinated by his plane being shot down. And they were there as part of the foreshadowing party because they were the parties that had put into motion his assassination, because John F. Kennedy Jr. had gone to Hillary Clinton and had told him that he was going to run against her for the New York Senate on the Democratic ticket and then for president. And that stopped their plans of that crime family. So they killed him in a ritual assassination where they, under the foreshadowing principle, all three of them had to be on the site, plainly in sight. And you can go to the article, and we have links in the article to all of this. It's all documented. So that's what's happening, and the mainstream media is covering all of this up. So what I said, and I want to read this very carefully, I said, if there is no 2016 U.S. presidential candidate willing openly to run on this platform, this reporter, Alfred Lambremont Webre, shall run for U.S. president on this platform until a qualified candidate steps forward. So my purpose is really to catalyze white hat candidates into the race. and to bring to a level of public awareness who these people are of the Bush-Clinton gang that are now have monopolized the political marketplace such that they are the two leading candidates on the Republican and Democratic side for the 2016 presidential election. So that's my purpose. I'm not a traditional candidate. What I'm doing is running to inform the people, and I haven't said that I'm running. I'm saying if no 2016 presidential candidate is willing to openly run on the candidate, then I shall run on the platform until a qualified candidate step forward. And there's a lot of, and there's a lot of conditions there, because if you run for U.S. president, you have to file. There are all these regulations where you have an exploratory committee. You have to file with the Federal Election Commission, and so I'm not taking any steps whereby a trigger necessary to file with the Federal Election Commission. If I did that, the way that I would finance my campaign would be crowdfunding, because I don't have any connections to people. Although one farter asked me, said, "Hey, Alfred, I can offer you $500,000,000," and that's a person who's a very interesting person, and and a thoroughly noble intent. $500,000 if you ran for president. Now, of course, under U.S. regulations, non-U.S. citizens cannot support a presidential campaign, nor do I intend to run for president. My purpose is to get a white hat candidate in here who's willing to run on these important platforms, and I'll run until a qualified candidate steps forward. Because I've done all of the oracles, I've done the tarots, I've done, all of the things, and I'm not a U.S. president. My astrology chart isn't there. I'm a journalist, and I'm a communicator, and I'm a futurist. And so that what I'm doing is trying to catalyze the American body politic back into life. And that's what's needed, because it's about to go under. And we're going to be releasing next week at newsinsideout.com interviews, for example, and an interview showing that the presidential that prior presidents have issued 1 to 4 executive orders per term. I mean, in their entire terms. George W. Bush issued 62, and that was more than had been issued in the entire life of the U.S. Republic up to that point. Well, Barack Obama has issued over 1,000 to this date, and those are executive orders essentially to take over the economy and make it into a Bolshevik entity where everything is taken over. All property, all food, all energy, all transportation, everything. And everybody can be shuttled into FEMA camps. And everybody can be shifted from different locations. They can mass shift populations in the U.S. at will. They can pick up all the cities and move them to another location within the U.S. And that's part of a plan to turn the U.S. into what was the Soviet Union. It's a Bolshevik republic, and that's by the entity known as Barack Obama. That's another false flag. His real name is Barry Sotoro Soebarka. He's the son of an Indonesian cult leader named Muhammad Subuh. Barry Soetoro is in Indonesia masquerading as an African American. He's not African American. And this is a CIA matrix depopulation U.S. termination program, which is underway. So and all of it is highly documented. So I really am being as quite clear as I can as to what is up for the American people right now. That is why I moved to Canada. I moved to Canada in 1998. I've become a Canadian citizen, so I'm a dual citizen because I saw that the Bushes were about to capture the presidency, that the mainstream media had the U.S. completely hoodwinked, that the American people, by a great majority, were behind the Bushes and behind this. So
what I'm seeing now is that you are exercising the basic sanction that we have, which is nullity or withdrawing from the parts of the system that we no longer support. So you're no longer under their governance. That's the basic act of freedom.
I'm sorry?
When you left the United States, that was the basic act of freedom, exercise of nullity, boycott, strike, don't participate in the institutions of the matrix that enslaves us.
Yeah, but I'm here and I can warn, and I have U.S. citizenship by birth. I was born at the U.S. Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, during World War II had just started, and my father was in Naval ROTC during college, and he was an instructor to the flight, to the pilots there, and he was, and he instructed the pilots during the Naval Air Pilots. And so I was born there on the Naval Air Station. So, I'm an American by birth. However, my purpose now is, as I stated, to bring these warnings to the American people and to make them aware of how their republic has been stolen from them in 1871, how it's now a crown corporation of the Vatican, how all of the lawyers are hoodwinked, and it's gotten to the point now that unless an American stands up and be counted on the white hat side and can counter the Bush-Clinton crime families that are representatives of the Rockefeller or Rothschild crime families, then there is going to be no more United States. Now, we have stated also at a certain level, because we're also time science scholars, that we have projected that the positive timeline that we're on, which came in on December 21st, 2012, where we shifted from a catastrophic timeline onto our holographic timeline in the space-time hologram that we're in, has shifted to a positive timeline. And so we've shifted from duality consciousness, which is I win, you lose, which is the essence of the essence of the Bush-Clinton catastrophic timeline matrix reality. They're into I win, you lose. They're into depopulation of the surface dwellers, which is us. But what we have projected is that the positive timeline may result in the election in 2016 of a positive U.S. president, contrary to the Matrix time travel pre-identification. That is another one of the articles that is in this larger article, i.e., we have brought together all of the sciences that we have, from time science to economics to history to exoeconomics, to show and to bolster everything that we're saying, such that what the people are getting now is a message, I would say, of, about as close to truth as you get. So that's the message that I'm bringing today. Yeah.
Alfred, where can you illustrate that we have shifted to this positive timeline? Is there a link I can put in the chat?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, the article.
Can we illustrate to our people, our listeners, that we have shifted from the negative timeline to the positive? Sure. Is there kind of proof or evidence?
Yeah. Here, I'll put this in the chat. And,
the chat, okay.
Do you see that there?
Look. And the other question I have is, amongst everybody that's out there, who do you think would be a white hat candidate that might be able to listen to your logic and reason and bring this platform to the public as a candidate that would, you wouldn't have to run?
Well,
anybody out there now?
I'm not. I don't know what the position of Bernard Sanders, for example, is on the going back to the original Constitution, abolishing the Act of 1871. Abolishing the District of Columbia, subsuming it back into the states of Maryland and Virginia, or making the District of Columbia a 51st state, which is what would happen. But that would be more difficult, and essentially disassembling the infrastructure that created the three city-states of Washington, D.C., City of London, and Vatican
City. Tell us, how do we get this city, like the City of London, has the control of their world, and we have our own city in the city of D.C.? Could you explain? My reading this was the first time I really got it. How did this come about?
Yeah. Now, this is the result of essentially what occurred in the United States when the first Constitution of the United States, which we know, was illegally suspended in favor of a Vatican Crown Corporation in 1871. And this is from a study by Paul W. Kincaid that has published a comprehensive study of the issue. Since 1871, the United States President and the United States Congress has been playing politics under a different set of rules and policies. The U.S. people do not know that there are two constitutions in the U.S. First, there was the Declaration of Independence of July 4th, 1776, where the people claimed their independence from the crown, in other words, the temporal authority of the Roman Catholic Pope. Because under the secret treaty of Verona, the Vatican and the Pope is the King of Kings and is over all kings, including the British King, the UK throne. And so with the Declaration of Independence, we declared ourselves independent of both the UK, the City of London, and of the Vatican. And for 95 years, the people were free and independent. And that freedom was ended in 1871 when the original Constitution for the United States of America, lowercase, was changed to all uppercase, the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, we're going to go through this and realize that there are different ways of reading the same words. And if you bring all of this to lawyers in courts, they'll read it one way. And most lawyers are brainwashed to read it that way. And they have all of their self-interest to read it that way because lawyers are now officers of the United States Corporation, not officers of the people of the United States. And that's a vast difference. What happened historically was that the U.S. Congress realized around 1871 that the U.S. was in dire financial straits. So they went both to the City of London Corporation, which was established by the Catholic Church on January 1st, 1855, and incurred public debts to the City of London and to the Vatican. And the Vatican's representatives in the U.S. are the Jesuits. The United States was set up by the Jesuits. And that's why you have Georgetown University, and there's a deep Jesuit background to the U.S. The Bavarian Illuminati was set up by a Jesuit in 1775 in Bavaria. The year after that, the second chapter of the Illuminati was set up in the United States at Yale University under the name of Skull and Bones, but its real name was the second chapter of the Illuminati. And that is how the Illuminati Jesuits intended to fight and bring down and co-opt the United States of America revolution. They did it by, in 1776, establishing the second chapter of the Illuminati as Skull and Bones at Yale, thereby to infiltrate the establishment of the United States to bring it down. And you may remember that we had in Bush versus Kerry in his second term, in that election, it was Skull and Bones running against Skull and Bones. It was the same situation. And people made jokes of it and light of it. But that's in your face. It's showing the slavery in their face. And people were spending enough of debt fiat US dollars that they didn't care, with enough propaganda and enough, war going on, that people didn't care. But now the depopulation phase and the termination phase of the US is about to start. So we're coming to endgame. Now, the conniving Pope back in 1871, and his bankers were not about to lend the floundering nation, I'm reading from this text, any money without some serious stipulations. So they devised a way of taking back control of the United States, and thus the Act of 1871 was passed with no constitutional authority to do so. Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia. And by creating that, they created a city-state. And that city-state then is the equivalent of the city-state of the City of London, where the Queen cannot come in there accompanied by any of her guards. And she has
so it was a legislative act, a mere legislative act, and that's all it was, an act of Congress, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's totally unconstitutional. And, yeah. And so with the passage of the Act of 1871, a city-state, a state within a state called the District of Columbia, located on 10 square miles in the heart of Washington, was formed with its own flag and its own independent constitution, the United States' secret second constitution. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, each symbolizing a city-state within the 3-city empire. The 3-city empire consists of Washington, D.C. D.C. stands for District of Columbia, City of London Corporation, and Vatican City State. Ooh. All of them run by the Jesuits and the Zionists. City of London Corporation is a corporate... Yeah.
Oh, real quick, who's Columbia? Has Columbia been identified? Is this a person?
I think that the goddess Columbia has the goddess Columbia is associated with the Statue of Liberty, which is also associated with Luciferianism.
Right. The Statue of Liberty is based on Utu, who is the brother of Inanna. So they're the twins, Utu, Shamash, and Inanna. And Inanna is the owl of Bohemian Grove. So they seem to be the rulers of the United States. So we're kind of going to the same place.
Yeah. So what they did is that they set up a Luciferian city-state in the United States, corresponded to the Luciferian city-states in the City of London and the Vatican city-state. And the city of
created a nation within a nation.
Yeah, and the City of London Corporation is the corporate center of the 3 city-states and controls the world economically. Washington, D.C. is a city-state that's in charge of the military. They are the military arm of what they call the Empire of the City. And the Vatican controls it all under the guise of, quote, spiritual guidance. But the Vatican is the world's banker. The Vatican is the King of Kings. The Vatican, all of the countries that are under this empire of the city fall under the Vatican, which is how the world is kept under Luciferic and satanic rule. And although geographically separate, the city-states of the City of London Corporation, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called the Empire of the City. This is how the Matrix is constructed. This is the Illuminati. This is what you know when you're initiated, when you understand how the power structure works of the Matrix, when you understand how the power structure works of the Illuminati. that's what
so we're already under one world order. The new one world order, and the separate states and nations are an illusion, fabricated.
Right. Yeah, and the Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under tyrannical Vatican law known as Lex Fori. When Congress illegally passed the Act of 1871, it created a corporation known as the United States, all in caps. In other words, the United States Corporation, and a separate form of government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act has allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and in total disregard of the best interests of the American people.
But so you've really convinced us, that they're not right. The problem is they have might. How can you make what's right when they hold the might? Is the real question. Who's going to take the white hat?
Well, you see, it's not might and right. It's really here we're dealing with orders of law and orders of cosmic law, such that, and so that's why here on Sunday, January 18th, 2015, we're starting to go through some of the law and some of the evidence, and it's clear that neither Jeb Bush nor Hillary Clinton, that are the representatives of the two crime families to the 2016 race, are qualified by law to be candidates because they're both secret assassins, and they've both committed assassinations, serious political assassinations, and have been accessories after the fact to them. That have affected deeply the welfare of the American people. When John F. Kennedy Jr., who would have been an excellent president, was cut off before even the American people had a chance to know him and to vote for him, which would have been quite feasible when he ran and would have won New York State Senate, and there could have jumped to the presidency. Which is why the Bush-Clinton gang assassinated him with a ritual assassination. That's almost regicide, and which is what they did to his father on November 22nd, 1963. And George H.W. Bush was not only present at that assassination, he was on the scene, and he conducted and controlled the riflemen in the building right next to the Texas School Depository. So this is what we've had for 50 years in American public life. It's a karmic drama of enormous significance, and even author David Wilcock, whose books I think are excellent, has done a study of the reincarnation patterns that have resulted between Rome, for example, and the U.S., where you have the same cycles of souls that come in to go for power and assassinate each other between Rome and then around the Kennedys and the Bush and the Clinton crime families.
Can you compel the Attorney General to take these assassins in, take Bush Sr. in, for example? Can a citizen, or can you as an attorney do that?
I could not, because, practically speaking, because we're going to be broadcasting again later in February a round table with Dr. Richard Cordero, who's a PhD from Cambridge, who has a 650-page study in which he shows that the most corrupt branch of the U.S. government is the federal judiciary, which is totally corrupt and in the hands of this matrix. We aren't going to a government here. We're going to a rogue corporation. We're going to a rogue corporation. Dr. Cordero's statistics show that over 99% of complaints against federal judges are dismissed, and that only 8 federal judges since the founding of the Republic have been impeached. And that
so the whole system's compromised, so there's no way to really do this within the system, no matter where you look. And now we're looking on the soul level. They keep reincarnating in patterns, according to David Wilcox, so this seems to be some kind of war games that's going on even on the soul level. So what's plus? Is it got like 2 minutes for the break?
Right. Sorry.
Hello, hi, and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com with your host, Janet Kira Lesson, and Dr. Sasha Lesson, and our incredible guest, Alfred Lambremont Webre. Before we get back to our show, I want to remind everybody that Revolution Radio is listener-supported, so please just take a few minutes now and go over to our donation and donate what you can. $1, $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever you can donate would be greatly appreciated. And we do appreciate your donation because your donations help us bring these types of shows to you on an ongoing basis. And this is fascinating, Alfred. It seems like the system's compromised, and wherever you go, there's a brick wall. But I think you have an idea and a way to take us out from this perverted matrix timeline. And perhaps let's finish up with the negativities and end on a high note. But first, I want to make sure that you've said everything. Sash, before Alfred comes back on, what would you like to say?
This is really important that you know that the matrix is a act of Congress, and it can be repealed by another act of Congress. It's merely a law that transfers everything to this corporation.
That's you, Alfred.
Right. And so that is why what we did in this article was to say that we picked out the 2 crucial policies that the 2016 U.S. president has to do. Number 1, and that they have to run on. They have to restore the original 1789 Constitution, repeal the Act of 1871, and restore, and either make the District of Columbia a state, which would take a long time, or just have it devolve back to Virginia. That would break the cords with the Vatican and with the City of London and would bring this matrix down. And secondly, the U.S. president has to run on a platform of protecting the rights of children against pedophiles and having the full power of the U.S. government, of all its prosecution and investigative agents, to stop and to deconstruct all of the pedophile, all of the child sacrifice networks, starting with their own human sacrifice networks that the U.S. government carries out in conjunction with the Draco reptilians at underground bases. And so it's taking back the country. So that is why we need a white hat in the White House. And so what we're doing here in this article is bringing to consciousness, it's the shadow side. This is, the we have a program with Paul Levy and author Paul Levy and the concept of Wetiko or archons, and it's the shadow side as Jung always talked about. And the U.S. is just the U.S. people and the United States have ignored their shadow side, and the shadow side has taken over, has taken power through the agency of the Bushes and the Clintons and the Rockefellers and the City of London and the District of Columbia and the Vatican. And now we're bringing the shadow side into the light. We're doing it in 2015. And the United States will have to come to grips with its shadow side. It has done so before during slavery. There was a civil war fought. Now, I believe that the saving grace is actually structural. And that is that on December 21st, 2012, the holographic timeline that our Earth community in our time-space hologram travels on shifted from a catastrophic one based on duality consciousness, I win, you lose, to a positive one based on unity consciousness, which is we are one. And it is that, the positive timeline, and the fact that on December 21st, 2012, or thereabouts, some people say some other dates, the interdimensional portal at the core of our universe began to broadcast permanent waves of unity consciousness, of we are one, such that it's the synergistic combination of the structural element of the timeline and the waves of unity consciousness, which are now in our universe, in our galaxy, in our solar system, that makes all of this possible. Because the plans for termination that the Bush gang, that the Obama gang, that all of the matrix powers, that Barack Obama with his 1,000+ executive orders have to terminate the American people and depopulate them, cannot go forward. They don't have traction, because only enterprises that are in unity consciousness, that's all that can gain traction now in these higher frequencies of the positive timeline. And so that
these archons straight from feeling it as well? What keeps them in polarized us against them, and if they can't feel us and move into unity consciousness, what's preventing that? Do you have any idea?
You're going to have to say that again, because it would just...
the archons, the Dracos, from feeling this energy of unity consciousness and to keep, struggling to stay polarized against us and to consume us and keep us enslaved and move forward with their depopulation agenda.
Well, i.e., we're in a transitional process now, and also there's free will. And what happened is that as of December 21st, 2012, our timeline shifted, and we still have a planet of 7 billion humans, and, also, many multiple of extraterrestrial civilizations, hyperdimensional, both manipulatory and positive and ethical. And we have 7 billion human beings, many of which still think that we are on the war, disease, crime, and poverty timeline, when it shifted to the positive timeline. So everybody's still playing the war, disease, crime, and poverty game even in their head, because that's what they've been raised with, and they haven't opened up to unity consciousness. And that's why the Matrix has not been able to get any of their false flags going, not even after the recent Paris false flag of Charlie Hebdo, which means Charlie 7, which is the actual name of Seven, a creative artist in London. And so we're going to show...
It's a false flag, because I'm not hip on that one. How do they show that a false flag?
I'm sorry?
What came up to expose the killing of the journalist, so-called, as a false flag? What's the evidence that it's a false flag is what I'm asking you.
You mean Paris?
Yeah.
Well, okay, there are a number of levels of Paris being a false flag. The day before the false flag, on January 6th, the president of France got up and gave a major press conference saying that it was essentially leaving the Federal Reserve fiat money dollar run by the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds have run France for a couple of hundred years, ever since the revolution in France, which they engineered, which was a product of the Illuminati. And the president of France got up and gave a press conference that he was moving toward BRICS, and then he was supportive of Putin and moving toward Russia, changing sides.
Wow.
And so what happened the next day? They activated all of the Israel, MI5, Israel, UK, US, CIA, false flag Islamists to do a false flag against the French Republic. In order to, that attack was really against France and against the French president, saying, if you dare to leave the Rothschilds and the dollar and go over to the BRICS, you're toast. And that's what the Hebdo was about. And there's a lot of confusion, and it's done under a worldwide magical meme that we call Seven Gate, which is part of a meme that this international, what we call war crimes racketeering organization, has operated on using the creative work of an artist in Britain called Seven. Her name is Charlie 7. And Charlie Hebdo means seven.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's all inside Masonry. And all that they're playing with are these false flags and these the reason why the Ukrainian president was put in, Poroshenko can't even speak Ukrainian. And he was put in by the city-state of the United States as a puppet, so that within days of his inauguration, under his signature, the United States sent planes over with Rangers, secret planes. They went in and looted all of the gold of the Ukraine, and then under cover of darkness flew it back to the Federal Reserve. Why? Because all the gold in Fort Knox had been looted after Nixon in 1971 went off the gold standard, and there's no gold there. It's all tungsten. And so that gold has been looted, either sent off planet or it's in the pocket of all the Matrix gangs around the planet. That's one of the reasons why Watergate happened, because Nixon was really angry about time travel technology being used for money laundering, which I would imagine would have included stealing all the gold in Fort Knox.
Oh, yeah.
And so that what has happened is that these matrix powers, including the Bush gang and the Clinton gang, who are just gangs they're like Hydra heads on the surface of this beast, have eluded the United States bare like a parasite, including all of its gold. And the irony is that the U.S. cannot even use that gold, that stolen Ukrainian gold, to pay its debts, because you have to show provenance with gold, and you cannot use stolen gold. So what's happened now is that last week, Putin went off the petrodollar.